Hi, Year 12 Sociology. Okay, so this is your Thursday lesson. I'm just going to share my screen and we're going to crack on straight away with Marxism. So, of course, this is paper 3, brand new component, and we're looking at digital forms of communication. So you would have looked at, first of all, how digital forms of communication has impacted and affected not just our society, but the whole entire world due to globalization. But then we started to think, but globalization, what is that? That's quite a problematic term to define. And then you looked at all of the different problems. So that was Monday's lesson. And on Tuesday, you went through all of the new key terms, hopefully making flashcards or whatever you can using the textbook. If you come across anything that doesn't make sense, remember, just email me. I'm hoping that it's quite straightforward, but if there was anything at all, always email me. Okay, so let's crack on with Marxism. So you need to apply Marxist theories to digital forms of communication and explain in depth and analyse his theories or Marxist theories of digital forms of communication. So first of all, it's even though, of course, Marx was writing in the 19th century, 19th or 20th century, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, we can apply his theory to the modern world. Now, when you might see NDF or DFC, that's basically abbreviating digital forms of communication. And with that, we're talking about mobile phones, talking about the internet, we're talking about iPads, anything which is digital and we can communicate with it. So for Marx and a Marxist thinker, and of course we're looking at conflict, structural, macro, they're the types of theory that it is. And remember, it sees society in this kind of state of conflict between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, the bourgeoisie who are exploiting the proletariat, that they can gain maximum profit. So if you think about it, guys, who can remember the quote he said about religion? Karl Marx said, religion is the opium of the people. Can you remember what that means? So it means that basically religion was there to kind of numb and dull the oppression and the exploitation the working class was feeling by having to go to work every single day, breaking their back for their boss and, you know, receiving hardly anything when the boss is sitting there in his great big mansion. So that was back in the day with religion. Now, as we know, guys, in a postmodern world that we're living in, religion is significant for some, but instead the media have really, really, really taken a hold of the way of life that we have. So really, the media, via digital forms of communication, is just another tool. It's another tool in this kind of oppression cycle, in the ideological state apparatus. So basically, digital communication is not new, but simply a different version of other forms of communication. These effects have been exaggerated by postmodernists and other sociologists. So it's just another way that the ruling class can exploit and manipulate to maintain power. Now, you could get a 16 marker on this. This is the 16 marker is the most marked question. Here's the siren going off. And so therefore, to answer this question entirely, you need to have 3 key points with at least 2 pieces of evidence to back it up. So remember, guys, in your exam, a point must always be backed up with 2 pieces of evidence, 2 examples. So as you can see here, number 1, we've got digital forms of communication is a new tool in the ideological state apparatus. That's our point. And we're going to back that up with Cornford and Robbins and a theory called excessive time. Number 2, DFC encourages passive acceptance that exploitation continues. With that, I've got 3 studies to back that up. So media convergence, Ralph Miliband and Rupert Murdoch, who we have seen before, and Ralph Miliband you have seen before. And media convergence, you should know that term as well from last lesson, hopefully. Number 3, DFC is used to control and is used as surveillance. And with that, we're looking at the Snowden report. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Edward Snowden. There is a film about his life, and not his life, but basically what happened and why he's really important for this sociology course. Or I think it was on Amazon. I tried to watch it. To be fair, I got a bit bored, but it's out there if you'd like to watch it. Okay, guys, let's crack on. So, first of all, our point is digital forms of communication are not really there to serve us, but instead are there to serve the bourgeoisie, as it's one of their tools in maintaining their power and control via the ideological state apparatus. Now, if you remember, guys, we had a picture on the board. It was like the superstructure. The superstructure relates to the ideological state apparatus, and the superstructure stays in power because of the ideology of the ruling class being transmitted down to the working class. So we basically accept willingly the hegemony of the ruling class, which is, the common sense ideas that it's okay to have, the 0.1% of the super rich, and then lots of, the majority of people living in poverty. Yeah, when you actually think about it, that's not normal. That's not okay. That's not good. Why do we have only a few with loads of money, and loads of people down here with no money at all? So Cornford and Robbins presented digital forms of communication, so iPhones, as a new form of democratic open communication to create greater equality. That's what we are led to believe. However, really, it's not, because it is owned and controlled by capitalists who want to make profit and ideologically control the masses. So yeah, already this is quite conspiracy theory like. I'd be questioning, well, where is the evidence for this? And you may be able to think of, oh, but miss, I know a contemporary example that I can relate that to. By all means, do that in your essay. This is you in your essay articulating your understanding of Marxism and applying it to the society that we live in. Okay, the second piece of evidence that we have is Garside. So Garside found that screen time is replacing sleep time. So typically an adult spends 8 hours and 41 minutes consuming media. Wow. I think that is per day. I think that was, yeah, it's per day, because you're meant to get 8 hours of sleep, aren't you, a day? And Garside found that adults aren't, we might be getting 6 hours of sleep, and then we're constantly on our phones or via a screen for work. So therefore, Marxists suggest that new digital forms of communication entertain people in a way that presents no real threat to existing capitalist society. So I can think of a strength. Yes, I agree. We've got the Kardashians, for example. The amount of people on their phones, putting a dog filter on their face. This has got the power to change the world, and we're not using it properly. We're using it instead to entertain ourselves. And if we're entertaining ourselves, then we're not going to be kind of awoke to exploitation. However, I then can disagree. I've got a weakness. Think about the case of George Floyd that's going on right now. Because of the media, digital forms of communication, we were able to see how terribly this poor innocent man was treated, died, and now the whole world's, absolutely standing up for him against the injustice that happened to him. So on the other side, well, no, Garside, I disagree with you there, and I might be actually thinking of digital forms of communication as being a positive thing for society. So guys, I've got my little sad face is here, and it's basically to unpick what this argument is saying. So first of all, in a postmodernist society, class is dead. Okay, so Marxism, remember, it's all about class division. Well, no, in postmodern society, the way that our class system works is not the same as it used to be. Because we have a rising living standards, and consumption has replaced traditional class distinctions. So, I can be a working class woman from working class roots, but I don't know, I might be a beautician. God, I know a couple of girls who are making loads of money because they're pumping people's lips with filler. So if we look at the economics, these kind of working class beauticians would normally be working class, but they're not, because they're earning so much money. They now might be considered as, the higher middle class. So really, in a postmodern society, we can't really make that distinction anymore. Second point, globalisation. Oh, I don't know. I can counter-argue that one though. But what about poverty? We've still got ridiculous amounts of children and families living in poverty right now. We've got people using food banks, and no, there is a distinction between class postmodernism. There is class. So again, this is what you guys need to be doing in your essays, but unpicking, kind of going from one idea to the other. Okay, so next one, globalization has resulted in class becoming just one part of many that shapes identity. Instead, we need to be thinking about how ethnicity and gender are also very, very important to our identity and can be seen as a way of oppressing and exploitation. You know, for women, there's still the glass ceiling, and for ethnicity, George Floyd. Okay, so another kind of unpicking of that, the AO3, the evaluation, new right. So new right theorists would disagree with these Marxist viewpoints, and instead they would blame the underclass and the culture of dependency. That it is the underclass who continue to create inequality because they are lazy and they are not working and they can't be bothered, and you know, it's their fault that they're poor. It's not the media's fault. It's not any kind of class division's fault. You know, people are poor for a reason. That's what they would argue. So the media simply reports what is happening within society, and it's not fair to blame the media and digital forms of communication for inequality suffered. So yeah, so they're saying it's not these that are creating the inequality like Cornford and Robbins were, but instead it is actually the people who are using them. Next, point number 2. So, digital forms of communication encourages passive acceptance, so exploitation continues. So, media convergence. Media convergence is a term used to describe how we've got one piece of technology that could do multiple different things. So, back in the day, your telephone was used to call somebody and have a conversation and put the phone down. Now, my phone is used for online shopping. It's my video camera. It's my photographer camera. It is, you know, it's everything. So that's media convergence. So Marxists would argue that increasing ways to access media through digital devices such as phones, tablets and computers. Owners of media companies have greater platform to market strategies, sell, make profit. Marxists argue it gives them a greater platform to shape ideas and encourage capitalism. So if we think of Steve Jobs, we think of Bill Gates, you know, the owners of Apple, the owners of, even though Steve Jobs died, obviously, God rest his soul. But, you know, these people that own these companies, they've got so much power. And it's through this power that they are shaping society. They can shape it for good reasons or shape it for bad reasons, which might be to exploit people and to keep them oppressed. Ralph Miliband, you've heard of him before. He says that DFC is just another way for the ruling class to use media to control society by creating a false picture of reality that presents capitalism in a positive way. And he would call it the new opium of the people, yeah, the drug that numbs us. So, you know, I'll be honest with you, I'll go on Instagram and it's all these fitness models, you know, these ladies with their completely flat stomachs doing their sit-ups and drinking their protein shakes and whitening their teeth. And I'm so busy going, oh my God, well, maybe I need to try a new diet, or maybe I need to buy the High Smile teeth whitening kit. And while I'm doing that, guys, because I'm getting so fixated and I'm kind of thinking, oh, I need to do this and I need to do that and I need to do this, that's basically going to make me be that little hamster on that wheel that will just keep me working and keep me exploited. So that's what Ralph Miliband means there about digital forms of communication encouraging this passive acceptance. So we're blind. Rupert Murdoch, okay, so he is not a theorist, but instead he's the multi-billionaire media mogul across the world. He owns over 1/5 of media companies in the UK, and therefore we need to ask questions over regulation. So basically, if all media messages are coming from just one company, is that going to give us a really kind of fair and free information service? So Murdoch has been, and his newspapers are really closely intertwined with the conservative values which promote capitalism. You know, of going out there and getting an education and getting a good job, you know, working, and make a success of yourself. Now, you know, some would argue, yes, that's really, really good, and therefore we've all got an equal opportunity to, you know, succeed. But then on the other hand, we're like, well, no, because if you look statistically, people who come from poorer income families, they predominantly do worse than those who come from a privileged family. So really, we don't have that, American dream where you can, reach for the stars and achieve, because unfortunately there are a lot of structural things in the way that prevent you from getting there, such as sexism and racism and homophobia and all of the phobias, really. Okay, I'm so sorry. I've got a picture here, but my little thing has covered it up. So let's unpick this. This is a weak argument according to pluralists. Now, pluralists they believe that the media is actually a really, really good tool for change. So they say that everybody can create media messages now. So this is a direct attack against the Murdoch point. It's not just the big media companies anymore. So right now I have posted this on YouTube, therefore I'm creating these media messages. But then, okay, you're going to have that evaluation. That is a valid weakness. But then if I'm going to counter-argue the counter-argument, well, no, because, I haven't got billions of pounds to pay for this video to be sponsored and to have billions of likes and billions of views, because it's just me in my little room in Leigh-on-Sea. Whereas if we look at Murdoch and his big company, he's going to have a lot of money in order to put into advertising for these messages to be put across. So again, as I said, we're unpicking it all and having that debate. Okay, a strength of this, the new right, they would say the underclass and cultural dependency. So again, no, it's the working class. They're lazy, and the media is just doing their job and they're just reporting on it. Yeah. Okay, next one. So this is really annoying about my animation. Let's do the animation. There we go. Better, isn't it? So here, so the digital forms of communication are used to control and they act as surveillance. So if we look at the Snowden report in 2013, so Edward Snowden was working for America, really, the highest security clearance, and basically he found that the American government was storing data, they were accessing people's private homes via their webcams, and he just thought it was completely immoral. So he came out, and he's a whistleblower. So he basically raised awareness of the unethical practices of, I think it was the CIA, the FBI, one of them. So let's read this. So we had concerns over monitoring of personal communication between people and the state, the use of private companies gathering information of people's consumer habits through tracking cookies, movement around the internet, often without any consent. So really, guys, if you think about the GDPR laws that have come into play, every single time you go on a website, you have to go, I accept the cookies, stuff like that. This is really, it wasn't because of Edward Snowden, but he really bring it into the forefront. Now you've got to think to yourself, why on earth do all of these people want information about me? And a Marxist would argue it is to control us. So it's kind of about understanding us to control us. So therefore, Marxists would argue we are losing our liberties, our freedom and our right to privacy. I've got a little video clip there, guys, so feel free to watch that. Now, the second point here, again, is around the lack of laws that there are. Because digital communication is developing constantly, all of the time, new laws, new legislation are having to be created, and therefore there is a gap in between. And in that gap, people are being exploited. So digital communication is mediated by private companies rather than the state. Therefore, it means few laws to govern moral responsibilities. So Marxists argue that this is highly problematic if people are not protected or even aware of how their digital self is being used. Let's talk about Twitter. Jeez Louise, Twitter's had some real big issues, haven't they? Like revenge porn, all the OnlyFans stuff that's out there at the moment on Twitter, because all the ladies exposing their bodies on Twitter and getting paid for it. These are ethical considerations. That when there were those like beheading videos and stuff, that is not acceptable and that is not okay. We do not need to see this on our screens. You know, if we want to talk about radicalisation, you know, Twitter has a responsibility to make sure that any harmful content is not being spread. You know, so you could go work for Twitter if you want to. After, you know, doing sociology, you certainly can, guys. This is what we're talking about for this course. AO3, so evaluation. So many examples of digital forms of communication have actually led to social protests and challenging inequality. So yeah, okay, you know, we've got lots of issues, but at the same time, it can actually help us to overcome issues at the same time. Okay, so let's look at a big kind of generalization. Oh no, this is all just the little points, sorry, that I've already discussed in the slides beforehand. So can digital social communication, has it reduced social inequality? What do you think? Now, of course, this is an evaluation statement. So you should have arguments to say, yes, it has reduced social inequalities. It has reduced things such as racism and prejudice and all this kind of stuff, or the gap between rich and poor. But then on the other hand, no, it hasn't. It's actually widened the gap. And you could use in the studies that we've looked at today. So you needed to apply a Marxist theory to digital forms of communication. So you've got a total of, I think, around 9 studies. And then you need to explain them, relate them, and also unpick them with your evaluation for your analysis. So I hope that all makes sense. If you've got any questions, guys, let me know. I'll stop presenting. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you again on Monday. Bye.